Time no see. Sorry, let me turn this up. So long time no see. Sorry, I was on vacation and all kinds of things. Sorry I missed you for a while. But today we are talking about, is it time to quit? So if you have been struggling with whether or not you want to quit your job, we're going to be talking about actually an old story. So if my current employers are watching this, this is, I'm not trying to quit my job. I'm talking about residency. So just FYI. But anyway, um, so, how do you know when it's time to quit your job? And I definitely came up against that after I got sick. So, we're going to chat through that a little bit. But if you don't know me, I'm Dr. Ashley. I'm a general pediatrician, and I love talking about marketplace ministry. So, essentially, I like talking about how God can anoint and basically help our day to day job. And that's really what I saw him do in residency. So, I just kind of love sharing this story. But basically, what happened was I got sick uh, right after graduation from medical school. So, like a couple of days after I was admitted to the hospital, I had meningitis. It was badness, right? So, I was admitted for several weeks. When I got out, it kind of just changed my whole life. Now, to be fair, I was very lucky that I lived through meningitis. Some people don't. But it really did kind of change the way everything went down. So I essentially had brain damage. I had trouble thinking, I had trouble remembering things, and I kind of blacked out with a patient. So I was quickly pulled off work and had to get like special accommodations and cognitive testing and all these different things to kind of get back in there. So my first year, I mean, the first several months I wasn't even working, but my first year I actually burned out, kind of hit that definition of burnout pretty quickly because the year just wasn't normal, is essentially what the problem was. So what happened was essentially when I went back to work, everybody was watching me. So I had to check in with my HR department with EAP, and they had access to my notes and my attending feedback and my boss. And so they had this like kind of loop where they would check the work that I was doing and also make sure that everything was going well with patients, but also check in on me. So I had to regularly see them. And then I also had to see my doctor regularly. She had to check in with me, make sure nothing was changing. And then I had speech therapy to kind of help me with my getting through the day. So then they had me get a separate counselor. Okay, so the counselor was supposed to be separate. So she didn't know anything about what was going on at work. So that was a separate person. So I had 44 doctor's appointments during my intern year, during that 1 year. I had a lot of appointments. And essentially what happened was that first 6 months, I had a concussion. I was really slow and really sleepy pretty much all the time. So I was basically either at the doctor, at work, or sleeping. I would literally sleep like every hour that I wasn't at work. I would go home, take a 3 hour nap, and then I would get up, check my mail, check my email, lay out some clothes, and go back to sleep for the night. And then I'd wake up an hour earlier so I could get to work early and kind of just get back in there. So it was a mess of a year, and essentially things just it's not exactly what I had hoped being a doctor would look like, right? I'm imagining I'm helping these kids and they're so excited and they draw me pictures of how much they love me as a doctor, whatever. And no, I'm like a patient most of the time, and again, really struggling. So initially, the first couple of months when I was just sleepy, I wasn't really thinking about much. It wasn't that big of a deal. But once I started kind of waking up and getting a little bit more aware cognitively of what was going on, my empathy really kind of kicked in. And I got to the part of the hospital where kids are a little bit sicker. And so that didn't help because essentially I started seeing kids suffering, right? So then I'm really questioning medicine. Like, you can't fix me. You can't fix these children. My job is literally to sit here and watch children die. Like, what is this? What is life? Right. So I got pretty down pretty quickly. Sorry that took so long to explain. But essentially I got to a place where I wasn't sure I wanted to do medicine anymore at all. And so my counselor at this point, we were working through kind of everything. And she did a really good job kind of helping me think through the big picture. I think she had a really good set of steps that we walked through. So the big picture is like, what is your overall goal? What's the direction that you're trying to go? What are you hoping your life to look like? Your life to look like? What are you hoping that your career will look like? And that I think is really where we started, and it was a really good place to kind of help me stop looking at all the problems and kind of think a little bit bigger picture about what I wanted my life to look like. And if you're in a similar place, or you have someone in your life that is, just to give you a hint, I'm going to be doing a master class next weekend where I'm basically going to be kind of walking through a lot of the things that this counselor showed me, and a lot of things that I've learned over the years, just about how to kind of come back after a big setback and how to kind of think through your career. So, again, we started with the big picture, what really matters to me. And then we went into details of my life, things that I used to be able to do that really weren't part of my life anymore. A big example was I used to kind of work out. I really loved dancing. That's how I kind of kept in shape. But one of the things that I was taken out of, that I wasn't allowed to do, was work out anymore. I kept passing out. So I wasn't allowed to do that. And so it really took away something that I really loved to do. And there was other things that were just plain gone entirely, either because of my work schedule or because of the way that the year was laid out. So then what we talked through was just long term. What will medicine give back over time, right? Residencies, it's called residency for a reason. You're supposed to kind of live at the hospital, but you won't be having this job in this way for forever. So, what would it give back over time? Can you get back dancing? Can you get back writing? Could I get back this type of thing where I get to like speak and teach and do that professionally? And the gist of it was, like, none of these things I would be doing during medicine. Like, I don't dance during my medical clinic or whatever. And so the answer there was basically no. A lot of the things that I really missed were not something that working in medicine long term would give me. So we ended up 1 plus 2 plus 3, and she was like, "You clearly need to quit medicine, right? Isn't that the answer? That's going to fix all your problems." So I really did think about it. I prayed about it a lot over the next couple of weeks. And then we came back and I talked and was like, you know what? I can't do it, right? So one, I've always wanted to do this. I've wanted to be a doctor since I was a little kid. And to be fair, I mean, I have the title doctor, but I don't really know what it's like to work as a doctor. I know what it's like to run around like a crazy person trying to not be a bad patient and, pretend to be a doctor, but I don't really know what it's like to have the autonomy and the stories and things that a doctor would. So I don't really feel like I'm there to be able to walk away. And two, I promised my program, and also I promised myself that I would do this. And I really want to finish. Even if I just finish these 3 years and then I walk away for good, that's fine with me. But I want to finish these 3 years. I can't walk away because it's hard now and never be able to do medicine again. Maybe I'll regret that for the rest of my life. So why would I do that? So, just a random side note here. This is why I talk so much. If you are thinking about getting a counselor or talking to someone, this is why it's so important to really know that you're on the same page as your counselor. I always tell people when I'm referring them for counseling, one, make sure that you get along with that person. Like, there are some people that just rub you the wrong way for whatever reason, right? So you want this to be like a person that you enjoy spending time with, first of all. But two, you do want to really kind of know where their boundaries are, what their thoughts are. Like, one guy I went to was like, "Would your life actually changed if you stopped believing in God and left the church?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it would." And he's like, "Wait, it would?" So I thought that was really funny. He, like, I don't know what he thought about religion, but clearly did not believe the same thing that I did, right? And so this particular counselor, the side note is that she was actually known for helping people quit medicine. And I didn't really think about it like that. She'd done like a wellness program with, like, she'd done some things, and I wasn't thinking about it like that. But she'd also helped several people I knew literally walk away from medicine. One of the girls that was in my program literally left, literally ended up doing something instead. And so this was what she was good at. Look, you're not fitting in here, well, leave, right? And I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I couldn't bring myself to give up that soon. And so essentially, my counselor fired me. She basically said, I think you're too depressed. I can't help you. I don't know what else to do with you anymore. Here's the number of a friend, but you're done. Right. She basically fired me because I would not quit my job and she didn't know what else to say. And so then things got really complicated because then it just seemed like everybody was kind of coming out of the woodworks, like questioning whether or not I should be there. Like my friends were like, "You just really don't seem happy," and like, "Are you sure you wanted? You seem really angry at the system." And even my doctor asked me like, "Why didn't you just take some time off or something like that?" I was like, "I didn't. I didn't. Nobody told me that was an option, right?" Like it kind of seemed like everyone was like, "Well, maybe you should have quit." And I really just questioned it all. But this part of the story really reminds me of the story of Joseph in the Bible. It's one of my favorite stories because it's such a hard story. I just feel like I relate to his life a lot. So I mean, he thinks that he's going to have this like position of leadership. He's telling his family about it. He has this dream, this vision for his life, and then things go in the complete opposite direction, right? Like he is a slave, and then he's wrongfully convicted of stuff, and then he's thrown in jail, and then he helps people. They still don't help him get out of jail. He's just stuck in jail, and I'm sure a lot of times he kind of wondered and really just kind of wanted to give up on the vision that he had, the vision that God had given him, the dreams that he had had when he was younger. I wonder if sometimes he did give up on them completely, and just didn't think anything was ever going to change. But I love the story of Joseph is because he really kept that vision and kept it to the point that he could actually teach his brothers about it over time. Like he could put the whole story together and be like, "Look, God brought me here, and God brought something good out of something that seemed horrible." And I think that's really what I had to come back down to when I was in residency. Like, what is the vision that I have? What is the vision that I was working toward? If you stop and look at all of the bad stuff that's happening right now, yeah, the decision I made would have gone very differently, right? I could have walked away a million times. But I knew long term, I still was interested in being a doctor. And I knew long term God had called me to be a doctor. He's clearly told me that I would be a doctor, unlike anything I'd seen before. And so, yes, maybe that meant I was never going to work as a doctor again, but I couldn't walk away until I knew for sure. Right. And so, again, the situation was bad. I've got a concussion for like a year and a half. I'm way behind my classmates. I'm triple checking my work. All of residency was a struggle for me. But when I finished 3 years later, I look back and saw the miracle it was for me to get through that. And I didn't just do it because I was like, just gumption, like, I've got to get through this. I did it because God had given me a clear vision for what my life could be. And He helped me. And I wanted leaving medicine, if I was ever going to do it, to be a choice, not something that I was forced into, but something that I could choose myself and make because it was the best decision for me. So I didn't leave. And I feel like that was God's best for me. I mean, I'm still working in pediatrics today. And again, it looks a little bit different than I initially planned, right? I do have all these other interests, and being able to have time to do stuff like this is fun to me. So I work part time as a pediatrician so that I can do all those other things that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to have time for. But wanted to bring this story up now because I think it was such a huge part of my life. If someone that you really trust and love is telling you to quit, it's kind of hard to say no. If it seems obvious that it's time for you to move on, how do you kind of dig your foot in the ground and stay? And if you're struggling with something like this, if you're in a place where you're similar to me, you're recovering from a big bad event, if you broke up with a fiance, if you've been fired, if you've had a big medical setback, if you have lost a loved one, oddly enough, I've been through all of those as well. I really know what it's like to pick yourself back up and try and get back in there. And so I'm actually doing a master class called Rising Above. Like, how do you get, it's going to cover a lot of different things, but how do you get a God given vision what are the practical steps of kind of keeping yourself going, especially if you're feeling burned out or feeling exhausted? How can you get a community to really support you? My church, my friends, my counselors, they really did help me get through all of that. And you need that if you need a team if you really want to succeed where you're going. And then I've got more stories, more different things that I'll share to kind of just encourage you along and help you to find God's best for you. So I love Galatians 6:9. It says, "Do not grow weary in doing good." I mean, again, it was a long 3 years, and I never saw the benefits of all the extra work I was doing at that time. But in the proper time, God promises that you will reap a harvest. So if you're struggling today, do not give up unless it's God's will for you. And if you're struggling with whether or not it is, definitely come to the master class next week. And please share it with a friend that you think might also benefit. Okay, so I'll put the links down in whatever. I'll put the links down below. And if you guys have any questions or anything, let me know. Have a good